With the high-stakes meeting ahead of the SCO summit scheduled to start on the 1st, all eyes will be on the landmark diplomatic moment, as this also marks Prime Minister Modi's first visit to China. He's also going to be holding a bilateral with Xi Jinping. My colleague Gauri Dwivedi joins us from Tianjin for more details. Gauri, what is the atmosphere like in Tianjin this morning? Putin has arrived there as well ahead of the SCO summit, and today there's going to be a key meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping.
Indeed, Aarti, let me in fact start with a ni hao greeting to you and all our viewers of NDTV. Tianjin, the city located not far from Beijing. It's a port town, about 50-55 minutes by train. It's all lit up and decorated in the SCO colors, because all eyes are on the very crucial SCO summit that will take place today. Already, we told our viewers a short while back, Russian President Vladimir Putin has also arrived for the summit. He will also be holding talks with Prime Minister Modi. That bilateral will take place tomorrow. And look at the commentary that's coming from Russia, really setting the stage for the SCO summit and also the discussions that will come out of it. On one end is the all-important bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi that will start in about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours from now. That countdown we're putting out right on our screens for our viewers to understand that and know that in about a little over 150 odd minutes is when that really high-stakes meeting will take place. There was some sort of a breaking of ice that took place at Kazan in Russia, where the two leaders had a pull aside. They managed to speak, but this was not a proper structured bilateral discussion that will take place today. There's a lot on the table, everything from trade to different views in terms of cross-border terrorism emanating from Pakistan, to completely different views with regard to national security defense, to aligned views with regard to how to handle Donald Trump's tariff issues. Those are several of the challenges and issues that lie in terms of the bilateral summit. There is a certain expectation that is lined up, given the fact that there's been some incremental progress that India and China have made in terms of bridging their divide, and that progress has been seen first in the people-to-people connect, second in the trade. There's been some easing of informal measures that were imposed by China for India, and that were in regard to critical minerals, fertilizers. Those measures were eased when the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi was in India, setting the stage for possibly next round of discussions between the leaders to really envisage the roadmap ahead. But let's also point out, Aarti, when I said there are differences of opinion with regards to terror, Pakistan, national security, those are grave concerns. And those the security concerns need to be kept in mind when you expect and have any expectations as far as this meeting is concerned. So we need to temper those, because I want to tell one thing to our viewers, and that's very important, which is that SCO primarily has security in its a big undercurrent. It's a security organization summit that it started as. So security, terror are likely to be very important aspects of discussions. And there is no meeting of minds between India and China. So that's the context and the background of why this meeting is so important. All eyes on what's the messaging that's going to be. But one thing is for sure, Donald Trump would be watching this very closely. Whether he can resist the urge to go ahead and immediately put out something on Truth Social, well, the jury's out of that one.
Gauri, as far as messaging is concerned, we've spoken in detail about India's interest and what our priorities are going to be at the SCO summit. But how is Chinese local media framing the SCO summit for local viewers?
Indeed, I did catch a lot of the local media in terms of anticipation and expectation from this visit. They understand, and I think, Karthi, that's important to tell our viewers as well. A lot of people understand that there are no differences at the ground level. When you talk about people, whether in China or in India, they are not disconnected from each other. There's no ill will amongst each other. And that reflects some of that on ground in terms of perception as well. But the media also is, putting out some of the other aspects in terms of how China views this. Let's not forget that China also wants SCO and what follows after SCO, the big grand military parade, to send out a larger message to the world about being able to create an alternate world order. And that is where India needs to hedge its bets and, of course, ensure that depth diplomacy 101 is on play here, because China has different expectations and has different aspirations about its role, its position in this entire region. which is why it will expect a certain messaging to come out of SCO. As far as New Delhi is concerned, New Delhi would want that this is a platform that it will use to be able to tell the world that its strategic autonomy is in place. And I think that's the big bottom line that we need to keep in mind.
Prime Minister Modi is in China. He's going to be holding a very significant bilateral with Chinese President Xi Jinping. And remember, this is also a reset of ties between India and China, because this is the first visit of Prime Minister Modi to China after 7 years and after the Galwan clashes. So it seems remains to be seen how India and China will balance out their differences and the conflicts and tensions between them. Take a look at this report.
A high-stakes diplomatic moment is just days away. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will travel to China for the SCO summit on September 1st. It will mark his first visit to Beijing since the Galwan standoff strained ties in 2020. But this visit isn't happening in isolation. It caps nearly a year of careful, calculated engagement between the two Asian giants. It all began nearly 11 months ago at the Kazan BRICS summit in October 2024. That's where the first thaw was noticed as Prime Minister Modi met the Chinese President Xi Jinping. PM Modi met the Chinese president on the sidelines of the BRICS summit and agreed to work towards a peaceful and stable relationship by displaying maturity and mutual respect. They also highlighted the need to not allow differences on boundary-related matters to disturb peace and tranquility along the LAC. The Kazan talks were followed by key milestones. The two countries agreed to phase disengagement at the LAC, followed by a revival of economic ties as an Indian business delegation visited China. This followed a series of high-level meetings between Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and his counterpart, as well as Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and his counterpart, and President Xi, the first such meetings in over 5 years. Then came the big visit, Wang Yi in New Delhi just last month. It was the first high-level visit by a Chinese official in years. From reopening trade routes to restoring people-to-people exchanges, the steps taken in recent months signal a desire to move beyond the shadow of Galwan. The road ahead may be complex, but with dialogue and diplomacy, they are again exploring common ground.
Just ahead of Prime Minister Modi's high-profile meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping at the SCO summit in Tianjin, Prime Minister also held a significant phone conversation with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Prime Minister Modi had reaffirmed India's consistent support for a peaceful resolution and emphasized humanitarian efforts to restore stability. They also agreed to remain in touch and continue diplomatic engagement. Remember, the timing of this phone conversation is important as it comes in the backdrop of the SCO summit, and Prime Minister prepares for a meeting with Putin as well.
Last 1 month itself, President Zelensky of Ukraine has dialed PM Modi twice. The first one was on August 11 that both the leaders spoke, and both the times these calls have happened just after Putin had met either some of the biggest leaders in the world. In the last few weeks he met Donald Trump in the US territory. So these calls happen sort of at a strategic time when there are increased calls for peace in Ukraine, but and India is one of the few countries, Prime Minister Modi is one of the few leaders in the world to have spoken with both the leaders on equal terms and called for peace. And we remember about 2 years ago when both PM Modi and President Putin met, PM had directly told him that this is not an era for war. That's one of the biggest statements any leader has gone on to say to the Russian leader on his face as far as stopping the war in Ukraine is concerned. So India has this rare stance when it comes to the Ukraine war, and that is what Zelensky is trying to bank upon.